My wife stole $200, $0 from our joint account to run off with her boss, and now she's claiming I should pay her alimony because she says I destroyed her dreams. After a messy divorce over who gets the house worth $1.2 million, I've just found out she was planning to leave me for years while secretly draining our savings. I never thought I'd be the guy to catch his wife cheating on him, especially not in the way I did. Honestly, it felt like a punch to the gut the moment I saw the messages. We'd been married for 10 years and yeah, we'd had our ups and downs, but I always thought we were solid. That was until I started noticing the small things, her phone always being glued to her hand late nights at work that seemed more like dates, and her suddenly being more secretive about money. It all went downhill fast. I remember the day I found out she was screwing her boss, Mark. It was a typical Tuesday, or so I thought. I was in the study, going through some emails she left open on her laptop, trying to get a handle on the joint account stuff since she'd been acting weird about the bank statements lately. I noticed some transactions I didn't recognize, big withdrawals, some from her secret savings account, and a strange wire transfer to an account I'd never seen before. That's when I saw the email chain. It was from Mark, her boss, and it was explicit. Not just flirtatious, downright filthy. They'd been planning to run away together. She told him she wanted to leave me, take the kids, and start fresh somewhere else. She'd been planning this for years, I realized, while sitting right there in our living room, oblivious. My stomach sank. I felt like I'd been punched in the chest, like my whole world was collapsing. It wasn't just the affair that floored me. It was the money. Over $200, $0 gone from our joint account in just a few months. I saw the deposits, the transfers, her draining our savings little by little, all while pretending everything was fine. She'd been lying for so long I wasn't even sure who I was angry at, her, myself, or the whole damn situation. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and furious all at once. The woman I loved, the woman I trusted with. My life was planning her escape with her boss, and I was left to pick up the pieces. I didn't sleep that night. I kept replaying everything, the secret texts, the late-night calls, the way she'd brush me off when I asked about her weekend plans. I knew I had to confront her, but I wasn't prepared for what she'd say. I never expected her to lie so effortlessly, to deny everything, to call me paranoid or accuse me of destroying her dreams. But I had proof. I had her emails, the bank statements, the wire transfer receipts, and I knew I couldn't ignore it anymore. The next day I sat her down. I told her I knew about her affair, about the money, everything. She looked at me with her usual bitchy smirk, trying to dismiss it, saying I was overreacting, that I was paranoid, that she still loved me, that I was destroying her. But I wasn't buying it. Not anymore. I told her she needed to pack her bags, that I was done playing her game. That was the moment I realized the marriage was over, completely shattered by her lies and betrayal. This whole thing has changed me. I never thought I'd be the guy to get cheated on and then have to deal with the fallout. The worst part, watching her try to spin it, claiming she was just trying to find herself, that she deserved a break, that I'd ruined her dreams of a better life. Meanwhile, she was secretly planning her escape, draining our savings and lying her ass off. I felt sick, but I knew I had to move forward. I had to get out of this mess, rebuild my life, and learn to trust again. If you're ever in a situation like this, trust your gut. Don't ignore the signs, no matter how small they seem, because when it all blows up, it hits harder than you think. And sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away, even if it hurts like hell. After I confronted her that day, everything changed in an instant. She didn't even bother to deny it anymore. Her face twisted into that familiar sneer, like I was the one ruining everything. She told me I was overreacting, that I was paranoid, that I'd destroyed her dreams by accusing her of cheating and stealing from us. She kept insisting she still loved me, that it was just a mistake, that she was under stress, and that I should be more understanding. Honestly, I wanted to punch her in the face. How could she sit there and lie so effortlessly after I had all the proof? It was like talking to a wall, cold, dismissive, and completely unapologetic. I couldn't even process her words at first. My head was spinning. I felt numb, like I was outside my own body watching this unfold. Part of me wanted to scream at her, to tell her she was a selfish bitch for betraying everything we built. But another part just felt broken. I'd given her everything, my time, my money, my trust, and she'd repaid me with lies, betrayal, and theft. The money she drained from our accounts wasn't just a number. It was years of hard work, dreams of a future, the security I thought we had. Now all of that was gone, and I had no idea how she planned to justify it all. Over the next few days, I started digging deeper. I hired a private investigator to confirm what I already knew. She was indeed planning to leave me. For Mark, her boss, I found out she'd been meeting him secretly for months, always claiming she was working late or attending a conference. She'd even lied about her whereabouts, telling me she was at the office when she was actually with him. The pie caught her sneaking out of a hotel late at night, and I saw the photos myself. That was the final nail in the coffin. Meanwhile, I was trying to hold it together, but it was impossible. The betrayal cut so deep that I started questioning everything: myself, my marriage, my judgment. I kept asking, how did I miss all the signs? Why did I trust her so blindly? I'd always thought she was the one, the woman I'd marry, the mother of my kids, the person I'd spend my life with. And now it felt like I'd been living a lie. She'd been planning this escape for years, secretly draining our savings, lying to my face, pretending everything was fine. I felt like a fool for not seeing it sooner. The money part hit me hardest of all. Over 200 grand gone just like that. She'd been funneling it into her secret accounts, buying herself a new life with her boss. She told me she was just trying to find herself, that I'd destroyed her dreams, and that I was the villain. She kept crying, throwing tantrums, trying to guilt-trip me into feeling sorry for her, but I wasn't buying it anymore. I could see through her bullshit. She was a liar, a thief, and a manipulator. I realized that her version of love was just a game to her, a way to get what she wanted, whether that was money, attention, or a new life. I knew I couldn't stay in this marriage any longer. The trust was shattered beyond repair. I started looking into divorce options, knowing it was the only way to finally cut her loose. But then she dropped another bombshell. She was claiming I should pay her alimony because I destroyed her dreams by kicking her out. That, and the fact that she insisted I was the one who had ruined everything, not her. It was so absurd I almost laughed. She thought she could just drain my bank account, run off with her boss, and then expect me to pay for her new life. That's when I realized she was entirely manipulative, using her tears and her victim act to try and get her way. The whole situation was a whirlwind of anger, sadness, and disbelief. I never thought I'd be here, feeling so betrayed. My mind kept circling back to all the good times, vacations, holidays, the quiet mornings I thought were safe. And now those memories are tainted with her lies and her betrayal. It's like I lost not just a wife, but the person I thought I knew. I kept asking myself how I didn't see it coming, how I could have been so blind to her manipulations. But I also knew one thing for sure: I wasn't going to let her walk all over me. I was going to fight for what's mine, for my dignity, and for the truth, even if it meant going through hell. I've started to build a plan, getting my finances in order, consulting with a lawyer, making sure I protect what I have left. I won't let her take everything, not after what she's done. The betrayal has changed me forever, and I know I'll never trust her again. But I also know I'll come out stronger. I have. 2. The days that followed were a blur of legal consultations, financial audits, and a sinking feeling in my gut that this was only the beginning. I had to confront not just her betrayal, but also the reality of how deep her lies went. She kept insisting that I was the one who destroyed her dreams, that I'd ruined everything by demanding the truth. But I knew better now. She'd been planning this for years, secretly siphoning money, lying about her whereabouts, and pretending everything was fine. I felt like a fool for trusting her, for believing that we were partners in life. Instead, I found out she'd been using me as a paycheck, a safety net, while she chased some fantasy with her boss. I remember the moment I finally decided to dig into her financials myself. I couldn't rely solely on the lawyer or the pie. Something about all of it felt personal, like I needed to see the truth with my own eyes. So I got access to her phone, her emails, and her bank accounts. What I found was shocking. Hidden transfers, secret accounts, multiple burner phones. She'd been planning her escape for years. The money she drained was just part of it. She'd also been setting up a new life, buying her way out of this mess. I saw the receipts for the hotel she booked for her business trip, the jewelry she bought with our money, the luxurious clothes she'd hidden away. It was all so calculated. She'd lied so convincingly, even to her friends, claiming she was working late or attending seminars. Meanwhile, she was meeting Mark, making plans to run away together, leaving me to pick up the pieces. I felt a mix of rage and helplessness. Rage because she'd lied to me for so long, and helpless because I had no idea how to undo what she'd done. She'd taken so much from us, and I was left with nothing but a broken marriage and a massive financial hole. Of course, she everything when I confronted her again. She played the victim, crying about how hard her life had been, how I'd ruined her by asking questions. She told me I was paranoid, that I was destroying her dreams, and that I was the one who was ruining everything. She insisted she still loved me, that she'd never cheat, that she'd only been trying to find herself. But I knew her better now. I knew she'd been lying from the start, lying about her feelings, her money, her loyalty. She was a master manipulator, and I was finally seeing through her act. The hardest part was realizing I was completely alone in this. My friends and family told me to fight for the marriage, to work through it, but how could I when she'd been secretly planning her departure for years? How could I trust her anymore? Every time I looked at her, I saw a stranger, someone who had systematically taken everything from me, who had betrayed my trust, and who now had the nerve to ask for forgiveness. I felt betrayed, humiliated, angry, and utterly exhausted. I started to formulate a plan. I didn't want to be just another victim of her lies. I hired a lawyer, gathered all the evidence I could, texts, bank statements, emails, and prepared for the inevitable divorce. I also made sure to document everything, so I'd have proof of her financial misdeeds if it came to a court battle. I knew she'd try to manipulate the situation, maybe claim I was abusive or that I'd destroyed her dreams, but I was ready. I wasn't going to let her spin this into some sob story. She made her choices, and now she had to face the consequences. In the quiet moments, I'd sit alone and wonder how it all went so wrong. I'd built a life with her, trusted her with everything, and in the end, she'd thrown it all away for some affair and a pile of money. I felt sick knowing that she'd been lying to me for years, pretending to be the perfect wife, while secretly planning her escape. But I also realized I had to take control. I couldn't let her drain me emotionally or financially anymore. I had to stand up for myself and reclaim what was left of my life. That's when I decided I was done waiting. I was going to fight for my rights, for my dignity, and for the truth. If she thought she could just walk away with my money and my trust, she was dead wrong. I was determined to see this through, no matter how ugly it got. Because at the end of the day, I knew I deserved better than a lying, manipulative wife who'd betray everything we'd built. And I'd make damn sure she paid for what she did, one way or another. The legal process moved faster than I expected once I had all my evidence in order. My lawyer was sharp, and we filed for divorce immediately. I wanted out, not just because of the betrayal, but because I couldn't live under the same roof with someone who had lied so thoroughly. The hearing was a brutal experience. She sat there trying to act innocent, crying crocodile tears, claiming I ruined her life, that I'd destroyed her dreams. It was almost laughable if it weren't so infuriating. She insisted she was the victim, that her affair with Mark was just a misguided attempt to find happiness, and that I was to blame for her actions because I never understood her. Meanwhile, I had the evidence. Her secret bank accounts, the wire transfers, the hotel receipts, and the countless texts between her and Mark. Seeing her try to spin it all into some sob story made my blood boil. I knew she was lying, and I was ready to prove it in court. The judge saw through her tears and her fake apologies. The truth was staring everyone in the face. She'd been planning her exit for years, draining our savings, lying to me, cheating, and scheming behind my back. Her claim that I destroyed her dreams was a sick joke. She'd been the one stealing my trust and my money. The financial aspect was the hardest part. I had to fight to get back what I could of the money she'd stolen. The court ordered her to return a significant portion of the $200, $0 she drained from our joint account, plus interest. She argued that she needed the money for a fresh start, that she was entitled to some of it because she'd worked so hard for the house and her lifestyle. But I pointed out that she'd been secretly draining that account for years, planning her escape while pretending to be a devoted wife. That argument didn't hold much weight in court, thankfully. As for the house, our $1.2 million home, things got even messier. She claimed she deserved half, citing years of contributions. But I argued she'd been siphoning money away and planning to leave long before the divorce papers were filed. It was a fight I knew I'd have to keep fighting, but I was determined. I wanted her out and I wanted my life back. The judge granted me primary custody of the kids, which was the one thing I was grateful for. I couldn't imagine her dragging them into her drama or using them as pawns. She refused to accept the court's decisions at first, throwing tantrums, trying to manipulate her way into a better deal. She accused me of destroying her dreams again, claiming I was trying to punish her. That's when I finally saw her for what she was, an entitled, manipulative woman who thought she could get away with everything. I kept my composure, though. I knew I had to stay strong for myself and the kids. I made it clear that I'd fight every step of the way if she tried to take more than she deserved. Throughout this process, I felt a mixture of relief and emptiness. Relief because I was finally taking control and she was being held accountable, but emptiness because I'd lost the woman I thought I knew. The betrayal cut so deep that I wasn't sure I'd ever fully recover. Still, I held on to my resolve. I refused to be a victim, refused to let her walk away with everything. I wanted justice, even if it meant a long, ugly battle. At least now I had the truth on my side. I could finally start to rebuild. The hardest part was seeing her face after the court proceedings, acting like she was the victim in all this. She stormed out of the courtroom, sobbing and cursing, claiming she ruined her life because I destroyed her dreams. I just watched her go, feeling a strange mix of pity and disgust. Pity, because she was clearly lost in her own lies, disgust, because I knew she was the real villain here. She'd taken everything, money, trust, our marriage, and now she was trying to spin it into some tragic story where she was the innocent victim. I realized that I couldn't change what she'd done, but I could control how I responded. I was going to focus on my kids, my work, and healing from this nightmare. I'd learned a harsh lesson about trust, about the kind of person she really was, and I'd come out of it stronger. I didn't want her to think she'd won anything because she hadn't. I still had my dignity, my integrity, and the truth. That was enough to keep me going. The months that followed were a whirlwind of settling legal matters, dividing assets, and trying to pick up the pieces. I threw myself into work and focused on my kids, trying to give them some semblance of normalcy amid the chaos. But inside, I was still raw. Every time I saw her face on the court documents or heard her voice during negotiations, I felt that old anger bubbling up. She had stolen not just money but years of trust and love, and I wasn't sure how to fully forgive her, even now. One day, I finally sat down and looked through all the evidence again, her texts, emails, bank statements. It was like opening a wound all over again. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind for so long. The woman I'd loved, the woman I'd married, was nothing like the person I'd thought she was. She was manipulative, selfish, and willing to lie her way out of any situation. Her excuses about finding herself in dreams were just smoke screens for her greed and desire to run away with her boss. It all made me sick. I also started noticing how she was trying to manipulate the situation even after the court rulings. She'd call the kids, crying about how daddy was so mean or ruined her life, trying to turn them against me. I knew it was her way of controlling the narrative, but I refused to let her. I knew what she was doing, and I stayed firm. I told the kids the truth about her lies, her betrayal, and how I was fighting to protect them from her manipulations. It was hard, but I had to stand strong. Meanwhile, she was trying to find ways to get more out of me. She kept pushing for more alimony, claiming she was destitute after draining our savings and spending extravagantly. I laughed bitterly when she said that. She had spent thousands on designer clothes, jewelry, and expensive vacations with Mark, and now she wanted me to pay her to support her dreams. I told her she'd already taken enough, her lies, her money, her dignity, and I wasn't going to let her squeeze me dry. I was done being her victim. One night, I finally confronted her directly. I called her out on all her lies, her manipulations, her attempts to guilt me into giving her more. I told her I knew about her affair, her draining our bank accounts, and her plans to leave me high and dry. I told her she wasn't going to get away with it anymore, that I was done playing her game. She looked at me with that same bitchy smirk, trying to pretend she was the victim, claiming I was trying to ruin her life. But I saw through it. I knew her for what she was, an entitled woman who'd betrayed her vows for greed and selfishness. That night she exploded. She screamed, called me every name in the book, and accused me of destroying her dreams again. But I didn't care. I was finally done listening to her lies. I had my proof, my resolve, and a plan to cut her out of my life completely. I told her she should consider herself lucky I wasn't pressing criminal charges for theft and fraud. That shut her up for a while. I knew she was trying to manipulate the situation, but I refused to fall for her tricks anymore. I was done being the victim. Looking back, I realize how much this whole experience changed me. I learned to trust my instincts, to see through lies faster, and to value my own well-being over someone who only wanted to take from me. I also learned that some people are just selfish, manipulative, and willing to destroy everything to get what they want. But I also learned that I'm stronger than I thought. I've started rebuilding my life, focusing on my kids and myself. The betrayal still stings, but I refuse to let it define me. I hope anyone reading this who's going through something similar knows one thing: don't ignore the signs. Don't let someone steal your happiness, your money, or your trust without fighting back. It's hard and it hurts like hell, but in the end, honesty and strength will see you through. I'm still healing, still recovering from the shock of everything, but I know I'll be okay. Because I deserve better and I refuse to let her win. I've learned that sometimes, the only way to truly move on is to cut the toxic person out completely and focus on rebuilding your life. Better, stronger, and more aware than ever. Now, looking back on everything, I realize how much I've grown through this nightmare. It's been a brutal lesson in trust, betrayal, and resilience. I never thought I'd be the guy to go through something so devastating, losing the woman I loved, watching her betray me, and then having to fight to reclaim what was mine. But here I am, stronger for it. I've come to accept that some people are just fundamentally selfish, and no matter how much you want to believe in them, they'll always choose themselves over everything else. The biggest takeaway for me is that you can't ignore the warning signs. The late nights, the secretive texts, the unexplained expenses, those small things add up. If I'd paid closer attention, maybe I could have caught her earlier. But at the same time, I also learned that sometimes, no matter how much you try, you can't save someone who's determined to destroy what you have. And that's okay. Because in the end, you have to protect yourself and your sanity. I've started rebuilding my life from scratch. I moved into a new place, got a better job, and most importantly, I've been focusing on my kids. They're the reason I get up every morning and keep fighting. Their innocence keeps me grounded, reminding me of what really matters: trust, honesty, and love. I've also learned to be more cautious, more aware of the people around me, and to value my own happiness over superficial appearances. There's a strange sense of peace now, even amid all the chaos. I don't wake up every day feeling angry or betrayed. Most days, I just feel grateful I'm still standing. I know I'll never forget what happened, but I refuse to let it define me. This experience has taught me that resilience isn't just about bouncing back. It's about learning to walk forward even with the scars. And believe me, I have plenty of those. But they're part of my story now, reminders that I survived, that I'm still here, and that I've got the strength to move on. To anyone going through something similar, don't let the pain consume you. Trust your instincts, gather your evidence, and don't be afraid to walk away. It's going to hurt, badly, but you'll come out the other side better for it. Because at the end of the day, the only person who truly matters in your story is you. Protect yourself, cherish your loved ones, and never let anyone steal your peace. Life is too short to waste on lies, betrayal, and people who don't value you. I've learned that the hard way. Now I'm just grateful for the chance to start over, stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever to find happiness on my own terms.